Mute your microphone. I can't hear you. I'm gonna get some headphones. Maybe it's with a problem with my audio. Hold on.
It's like reset.
Oh, now it's working.
Hey, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you now.
All right.
How's it
Well, hey,
going?
Jeff.
Do you guys have feedback? Should I put on headphones or is it okay?
I don't get.
We're good.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Hey, what's up?
Thank you so much for making time in your evening and doing this with us. This is so wonderful.
Yeah, no worries. What kind of a project is this for?
So it is a design master's thesis project that's about 6 months long, and we basically go from interviewing, need finding, ideation, prototyping, and in an ideal world, trying to bring something to market in 6 months. We're at the very beginning of this process, so we're just kind of in the need finding, expert, having talks with experts stage of it all. So.
Ah, cool, it's exciting.
You are one of those experts.
Well,
yeah.
I'm happy to help however I can. I don't know if I'm really an expert in whatever we're going to be talking about, but.
Well, Not tells me that you're going to be hosting some Airbnb trips.
Yeah, I do host an Airbnb trip. It's a queer history bike tour.
Yeah, I would just love to dive into that and sort of, before getting into the specifics of that, just kind of hear about the history. Like, how did you hear about trips? Have you done stuff like this in the past that transitioned to doing it at trips? How did this?
No. Yeah, it's kind of a roundabout story. So I run a small nonprofit called Turnout that focuses on connecting volunteers with LGBT causes. And through that work, I meet a lot of different people, including like going to funder events and other things for other nonprofits to meet people who are interested in queer nonprofit issues. And I met someone through that work who I had been working with to basically share strategy on starting new nonprofits. And she got hired as a contractor by Airbnb on the TRIPS program to do outreach to nonprofits to populate Airbnb's TRIPS feature, or they're called city hosts. That's the proper name, to get nonprofits, because I guess in their research they found that people really wanted to have like a meaningful travel experience. And Airbnb decided to offer nonprofits the opportunity to create an experience on their platform and not charge them anything. So normal experiences, I think Airbnb takes like 20% of ticket prices. Profits, they don't take any, so we get to keep 100% of the money that we make. And Carrie, her name was Carrie Rogers, she contacted me. She's like, look, I'm looking for local nonprofits. Is this something that you'd be interested in doing? And I had actually been thinking down the line as like a second or third project, doing local tours of queer organizations and queer history to kind of put queer work into context, so that people knew what kind of work was happening in their cities, what kinds of issues people are focusing on, what what the historical context is. So I was like, let me think about it. Maybe I can put something together. And it was
in the background for you already.
It was in the background, yeah, but more as an educational initiative, and a way to raise the profile of local nonprofits and to educate the community about what work is happening. Yeah.
Got it. And then when you were asked by this friend to participate in trips, it felt kind of like a good connection for you, or how did that?
Yeah, I decided to do it because it was a good opportunity to raise some money. For some of the inaugural hosts, Airbnb offered a guarantee on a certain number of tickets, like the equivalent cost of a certain number of tickets for the first 4 months. So this was like guaranteed revenue for our nonprofit, which was great. And it's something that I have a personal interest in. I have an interest in queer history. I like to bike. I thought it would be a good way to get our name out there as an organization. And it actually has been. I've had a lot of friends who have written to me and been like, hey, I saw like your face in my email box, like what's going on? So, I mean, Airbnb is ubiquitous and it's a great platform to get on in terms of, visibility. So it was really a good opportunity for us.
And Trips is live now, correct?
Oh yeah, we've already started our tours. Yeah.
How many tours have you done?
Well, the first one was supposed to be in the first week of January, and you guys are at Stanford, right?
Correct. Yeah.
But you know how wonderful the weather we've been having has been. So I mean, as much as I know everyone has to like give the caveat that we need it, and there's been a drought, and whatever. But it's horrible for bike tours. So I ended up having to postpone the first two, but we just did our first one, I think a week and a half ago or 2 weeks ago. And it was great. We had a guy from Ireland, a guy from Brazil, a guy from the Netherlands, 2 girls from Singapore, and a guy from Seattle. And it was great. It was a really positive experience. I had fun doing it. I think they had a really good time. It went longer than I expected it to, but we've since adjusted it from 3 hours to 5 hours. So it's a very
wow, so it's a 5-hour trip. Got it.
No, a 5-hour trip. Thank God they were flexible.
Yeah.
And interested in the subject matter.
Can you just walk us through some of the experiences that these people have during the trip?
Like what we do on our tour?
And how did the people experience it? Like some of their reactions or emotions or feelings as they go through the trip?
Yeah, sure. So we start at the ferry building and then we bike up the Embarcadero to Fort Mason. And there's like this kind of cool little pier. Have you guys been to that like curved pier they have out right? Sorry?
At Fort Mason?
Yeah, yeah.
I have been there. Yeah.
Isn't it? You get this beautiful view of like the Golden Gate Bridge and Alcatraz and Ghirardelli and Telegraph Hill. It's really nice. So we go up there and like I actually have, I give them kind of a broad historical context going back to like the Ohlone people, and I have like a little booklet of photographs to help illustrate the material, because I think seeing pictures of queer historical figures is very important. It's really like hard to imagine what people actually look like. And for me personally, it's very powerful to see people's faces, like real people.
Yeah.
That actually I found to be like the guest scene, you could see like people would really respond well to it, which I was really glad that I took the time to make that. Like the stories I think are also interesting, and people said that they, there was a lot of information that they found really interesting and the characters were interesting, but the pictures really, people were like, you could tell that they were immediately engaged.
And how did you, just to sort of ask, to go deeper on the pictures, how did you get the intuition to know how to do that? And maybe an extension of that question is, how long did it take you to prepare for the first trip?
It took me so long. It took me
exasperated.
It took me like months to do. But and it's also because I care about like the integrity of the stories I'm telling. Like I don't want to be telling stories that are BS. I think it's queer history in San Francisco is something that I knew enough about to know that there are compelling stories, but I'm not like an expert in it. I had to like go to the library and get a bunch of books, like even figure out what books I had to get and like learn the queer history to tell those stories and then to like find the most compelling stories that I thought would be, interesting for people and the most relevant for them to understand how queer community developed in San Francisco. And then I had to like write the way I would tell them, and I had to practice them, and I put together the book, and it took a really long time.
You wrote a book. So you finished your dissertation, so here's your PhD.
I mean, it's totally reliant on these other scholars who have done all the original research, who have done phenomenal work. But
did you get to meet them?
I'm sorry?
Any of those scholars, did you get to meet any of them? Like, what was the...
No, I just read their books. Yeah, I don't even know if any of them are here, but a lot of them were funded by the GLBT Historical Society, which is here. So, yeah, they might be here. But yeah, it took a long time, but it was also something that I cared about, and it was like, it's also a good opportunity for me to practice storytelling. And as like when you're building a nonprofit, you have to tell compelling stories. So it's like a professional skill building opportunity for me too. So.
And does that, when you say the storytelling aspect is important professionally, is that just to narrativize what the nonprofit is doing, or is that also, I don't know, creative writing on the side, or something in addition to the...
No, I mean, at my last job, I was the director of communications for an international LGBT rights and health organization. So I did a lot of press releases, and I did a lot of like research writing, but that I didn't get an opportunity to like really tell a lot of compelling stories. And when you're trying to raise money, like you have to tell a story that people can connect with, and you have to tell it in a way that is compelling enough for people to want to get involved. Right. And I happen to be extremely passionate about the work that we do, so it's easy for me to be passionate. But I think there's a lot to telling stories in a way that gets across an important point. And yeah. So anyway, I mean, it's something that I'm also personally interested in storytelling just in general, outside of work. So, yeah.
What was the most challenging aspect of doing the research and preparing this trip?
The most challenging aspect of it, honestly, is I do have like a pretty strong fear of public speaking.
Okay. Got it.
And I knew that this would be an opportunity for me to really work on that. And it was, I do a lot of things to improve my public speaking. Actually, I'm like a part of Toastmasters. Like I do work, I say yes to like every speaking engagement that I'm asked to do, because I think practice is really important, and I've improved a lot. And this has actually been like a good opportunity for me to practice that and, continue to improve. And it's, it's going well so far. I'm at a place where I feel like it's, it's good enough for me to do my job. So, yeah.
Do you think of public, because just hearing you say that, I mean, it sounds like you don't have a courage problem. Is the public speaking like a skill set that you feel like you're trying to sharpen? Because you're certainly doing a lot of bold things.
I mean, I kind of make a point of like never saying no to something because I'm afraid of it, but that doesn't mean I'm not like afraid of it. If that makes sense. So. Yeah.
There's no bravery without fear, I suppose.
Yeah, totally.
What was some of the feedback that you got from these 5 travelers at the end of the tour?
Well, they wrote some feedback on the web page. I don't know if you happen to see that, but that's available publicly. They like wrote reviews. But they really, I mean, the feedback was really positive. I was really like moved that people responded well to it, and people said the stories were surprising, and that they, so that was one thing that they really liked. And they were all really jet lagged. They had all just kind of like gotten into San Francisco. And during the tour, I was like, I can't believe you guys are like still awake. And they're like, no, the content is like interesting. It's like keeping me plugged in. So that was nice. And they also said they really liked getting a chance to see all these different neighborhoods and like have a nice, it's like a significant bike ride. So, yeah.
These were all strangers, right? They don't know each other.
They did. Some of them did. So there was like one group of 3 guys that knew each other, one group of 2 girls that knew each other, and 1 single guy.
And how did that dynamics play out? Like the fact that there were 3 different groups
It was good. I think that's actually, it was a really nice dynamic because people felt comfortable. They had like their people with them, but it was also small enough for people to talk to each other, like outside of their little groups that they had. I thought it was a really nice dynamic, actually.
Got it.
Yeah.
Did you other than maybe the being sleep deprived and what's the word I'm looking jet lagged, did you see an emotional journey occur for them? Did it maybe, did their group dynamic change over time, or did their affect towards you change over time, or towards the city, or how would you sort of characterize their emotional journey?
That's a really interesting question. To answer honestly, I didn't get a sense of change in that.
Got it.
I mean, also I was like super stressed because we were going way over time. So I was like a little bit distracted by that. I think if like now that we've changed it from 3 hours to 5 hours and I can like really take time to tell these stories, I think it'll be a little bit different. I think people will be expecting more of a journey kind of thing. And there is a point where in the middle we go to the oldest surviving gay bar in the city, which was built in 1910. It's called the Gangway. And we just had a lovely experience there. I'd gone the night before to introduce myself to the bartender and ask if it was okay for us to come. And the guy was so nice. He's like, if you guys, it's in the Tenderloin. He's like, if you guys want to park your bikes inside, you totally can. You know, I know how the neighborhood can be. It's a bar that like opens at 8 a.m. every day to give you a sense of, it's like a dive, like an old fashioned dive bar. And the clientele is like very consistent. And it's sort of a lot of older folks. And we got in, these guys in the back were like, oh, you know, do you want us to move so that you guys can do your thing? And I was like, no, you know, you should stay. And they decided to move, which was really nice. And so I asked if I could buy them a drink, and they were like, no, that's, you know, I tried, there's so much hatred in the world. And, you know, I really tried to, you know, create goodness wherever I can. And then they like gave us these free cookies that they had. And like the bartender came over and was like, oh, if you want another bar to go to, I called my friend who's a bartender over at this other bar. And he said, you can come there and like park your bikes inside too. And like, it was this really amazing experience of like telling these stories of queer community and queer people looking out for each other, and then like experiencing that like real time in this bar, which I thought was really like personally really moving to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't really know how to form this into a question, but there's something so unique here about, on one hand, you have these people who are ostensibly tourists, and when tourists come into a local space, they're not traditionally welcome. And there's something about the thing that you did, the fact that you're from this community, showing this community, and you're sort of bridging this gap, that I don't really know where the question is in this, but something seemed to work better. You know, they weren't outsiders. So I don't know. How did that feel to you? What do you think was the most successful, or some of these successful points that sort of broke down that tourist local binary?
I mean, I think it's interesting because I think it could go in two different directions, right? I mean, I think the fact that like I was really conscious of the space and like ourselves being visitors, like I didn't assume that I belonged there. And like I wanted to make sure that I introduced myself in advance. Like I made sure that it was okay that we were coming. Like when those guys moved out of our way, like I made sure to offer to buy them drinks because they had really gone out of their way to make us comfortable. Yeah. And like that, I think was really, I think that made all of the difference for that moment. Because I can see other people not making those efforts to like build those relationships and build trust and show respect for the people around you and respect for the spaces that you're going into. And you could be viewed as like making money off of like walking into another person's living room, and like, I don't know, like I gave the bartender like a huge tip, and like they're helping me out, you know, by doing that. And I want to make sure that I'm helping them too. And so it doesn't feel like exploitation, like it's something where everyone benefits. And I think that helped to build trust, and I think that it helped to, you know, build a relationship. You know, I think that's why being the definition of being an insider and what Airbnb is playing on with this whole thing, like insider, whatever, get an insider view, like that is build, relationships with people and having trust and being able to exist in a space that you wouldn't be able to if you didn't have trust and respect.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I think about that.
That's fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, I know it's funny. It's something I think about sometimes when I see some of these other experiences in Airbnb. Like there's this one that always gets me that every time I see it, and like Airbnb promotes the shit out of it because it's like super unique, but it's the guy who is like Nelson Mandela's prison guard is like doing, did you see that?
Yeah, I saw it in some like promo video of theirs. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
White dude, right?
what? Yeah, white guy. Like it would be one thing if you were like raising money for like a human rights activist, and maybe he is doing that. I actually don't know. I think it's a private tour, but maybe it's not. It's like, dude, like you can't like be Nelson Mandela's prison guard and then make money from telling the story about how you were like Nelson Mandela's prison guard. Like that's so creepy. So
yeah, very problematic.
yeah, like that's lame, unless all of the proceeds are going to like prison justice, like you can't do that.
Yeah. And just with that in mind, is that something that it seems like that was something that you were mindful of in a way too, of like how to not take advantage of these communities you had access to?
Yeah, I mean, I really try to be as respectful as I can, and like one of the reasons why I feel like we can, do this. I mean, why I feel more comfortable doing this is like I'm not making any money off this. I do this for free. Like all of the money goes to our nonprofit. It pays for our intern, who's like a college intern who, like, I just don't feel good about like doing unpaid internships. So like and like the project itself benefits the community. So like I feel like we can be a little bit bold because a lot of stakeholders benefit from this, and I don't feel creepy about it because of that. But I still think it's important to like, you can't rest on that. You need to make sure like every person has been addressed and every person has been engaged in a respectful way and in a way that gives them the opportunity to opt out if they want to, and in a way that benefits them if they do opt in.
Yeah. How did you know how to do all of that? I mean, that's like so much, I don't know what the right word is. I mean, a combination of street smarts and like business savvy and like community mindfulness. Like how did you go about that? And were there any like, and maybe not for this trip, but sort of maybe in general in your career in nonprofits, what have been some maybe times that's gone wrong and you've learned from that mistake?
Yeah, I mean, my last job was coordinating like an international network of LGBT activists across like 160 countries. And there was like a really strong post-colonial dynamic with that, because we were based in the United States, and like the way money works and the way power and influence works, like we had to be like, there were a lot of instances where there were learning opportunities for me to, and it's funny now that you asked that, like I can think of very specific instances where like we had been funded by the UN to do this research project, but the funding, like they wanted it within a week, and I needed to like get 16 different Caribbean activists to like take this survey. And it was like to benefit queer people in the Caribbean, but like I was super busy, and so like I sent this email asking them for like their urgent support to like recruit people in their own communities, and then I had to get on an airplane, and I was like out of communication for 2 hours, and I got this email back from one of my closest contacts in the Caribbean that was like, you cannot treat people like this. Like you cannot like send an email asking us to go out of our way to do a project for you and then go AWOL. Like that's bad form. And in fact, he said bad form, and I was like, oh my God, because I was like 24 and like mortified because this guy is like a legend. He has like an award named after him now. But that was an instance where it's like, yeah, this is like in nonprofit, everyone's always trying to do good work, but so you have to make sure you're doing it the right way. And everyone has a different idea of what's good work, and everyone, some people benefit and some people don't. And You have to make sure you're treating people respectfully at every step of the way. Otherwise, they're not going to want to work with you. And they're, it just doesn't work. And there are a number of cases like that where, I don't know. And you have to balance it with practicality too. There was another instance where we were doing a global survey and we had to pick 7 languages, and we didn't pick Hindi because a lot of folks in India speak English and we had limited resources. And we got nailed by our Indian board member about how we were like complicit in colonialism and like this is disgusting and blah blah blah. And I was like, oh my god, like we hate colonialism, like we can't do this, like let's put Hindi on the thing. And so we spent all this money to translate this fucking thing into Hindi. And of course, like everyone in India takes the goddamn survey in English. Like no one took it in Hindi, which could reflect like our recruitment efforts or whatever, which by the way, he was in charge of. Yeah, there is a thing too of like you should be respectful and you should figure out the best ways to do that, but there's a limit on resources and you have to balance like what's realistic and practical and what's kind of like pie in the sky political correctness that doesn't end up benefiting anybody anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know if that is relevant to what you guys are doing.
No, absolutely. Thank you for sharing those.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, doing that work like with a bunch of queer activists like for a decade, and all of them are outspoken and like super like on it all the time. I think that helps me gain some skills in how to work with very different people and make sure everyone feels respected and included and like a stakeholder. Right,
absolutely. And it seems like you needed to draw upon those 10 years of experience to produce this trip.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I hadn't even made the connection, but I think, yeah, it does inform my thinking about how this work should go.
Nice. Gosh, Rishi, have any questions?
I'm good. Thanks so much for taking the time.
Yeah, this is so awesome. Here's a random question. Would you, knowing the amount of work that goes into this, would you do more trips of this sort?
I've thought about that. Probably not for a while. It took so much legwork to prepare for this one, and like now I can just keep doing this one. Like the book is written, the book is done, like the route is planned. The really hard work was the like original foundation stuff, and now we can continue to do it. So probably not for a while. It was really a lot of work. Yeah.
Would you have just thinking about that preparation process, was there anything that you wished you had access to, or any things that along the path you were like, oh gosh, if only I had X, this could make this process a lot less painful or complicated?
I don't know, not for this. I don't know. I can't think of anything.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, awesome.
So how did you guys how are you guys choosing who you talk to? Curious.
Yeah, it's a
limited connections at this point.
I mean, it's a combination of a number of things. We're kind of going down two paths. One is experts. So that's the category you fall into. So people who have created experiences for others, travel-related experiences for others. And then the other path we're going down is speaking to extreme users. So specifically younger women who have traveled alone, because we're trying to figure out what the relationship between safety and curiosity is. So obviously, going on the adventure that you took your guests on was like a bit of it was a mystery to them. It was a big adventure, but there's also the element of safety at work that for a single traveling female, maybe in a foreign country, that's more of an issue. Those are the two tracks we're going down right now. Hoping that if it works for a single traveling woman, then it works for many people. But yeah, as far as experts are concerned, just people who have done things, produced travel experiences.
Okay, cool. And yeah,
to that extent, is there anyone that you can think of that you might point our way, either in one of those two camps, either a single traveling female or another trip producer of some sort?
I mean, it's interesting because, and your project that you're working on is interesting to me because one of my other jobs is coordinating a study abroad program on social entrepreneurship, and we do a lot of like human-centered design and design thinking, and we actually are going to Stanford next week to meet with the director of the Center on Social Innovation.
Look us up.
Yeah, it's a
Who's
2 week.
the person you're meeting with? Do you remember their name?
Yeah, Emily Baylard.
Emily Baylor. Okay.
Yeah. Bailard. She's the associate director of the Stanford Center on Social Innovation. But our students start here for 2 weeks, and I coordinate their San Francisco program. So we meet with like different social enterprises. We meet with accelerators. We meet with impact investors. All sorts of different folks. And then they go off to India, Uganda, and Brazil to meet with social entrepreneurs in all of those countries as well for the full semester. So, yeah, we talk a lot about like safety and also like what that, boundary is for, when it's appropriate to kind of take risks. Obviously, it's an educational program for college students, so we're very conservative with the risks we allow people to take. But yeah, it's something that I think about a lot, actually, is that kind of risk factor.
Wow, I mean, that's just like another huge rabbit hole to go down that I would love to. I don't want to take too much of your time right now, but
no, I mean, I'm happy to talk about it if you're interested. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So is this an independent company that does this for universities, or is it affiliated with university, or how exactly is it structured?
It's through a thing called World Learning. The program itself is called the International Honors Program, IHP. And the whole model is experiential comparative learning. So most of the learning is done outside the classroom, meeting with different people who are working in whatever field you're focused on. And you compare one topic across multiple countries. And there's, I think, 5 or 6 different tracks. Social entrepreneurship is one of our newest tracks. We just started last semester. So I got to be a part of like co-designing what that content would be. And like I designed the San Francisco program, which is really exciting and fun.
Cool.
Yeah, it's really a cool opportunity. And I really enjoy the work. But there's one on climate change, there's one on health and community, there's one on the African diaspora, which is also new. So there's a bunch of different, and they all go to different countries. It's done through this thing called World Learning, through SIT, which is like an independent sort of, they call it the Experiment in International Learning, I think. But I went on the health and community trip 10 years ago when I was a college student. So that's how I knew about it. And yeah.
How curated are these experiences? Is it kind of like school where you have some programming during the day and then you're kind of on your own in this country, or is it more tightly?
It is super tightly choreographed.
Got it.
So today, for example, oh my God, what did we do today? We started by heading to Sonnen Capital, which is an impact investment firm, where we heard from like 3 different of their employees, like one who talked about like researching the impact side, one who talked about researching the investment side, and like then we went to the classroom to talk about case studies, and then we had a visiting professor from Berkeley give a lecture on technology and society and the history of Silicon Valley and like how it became a tech hub center, and they talked a little bit about Stanford actually. So they teach 4 courses throughout the semester. But it's balanced equally by site in whatever communities you go to. But in order to fit all of that in, it's like your days are planned completely. And then your evenings are off because we don't want to exhaust them. So your evenings are off and you have to have at least 1 half day a week, and your weekends are off. So then they can do whatever they want. And then they have a week off in the middle of the semester where they can do whatever they want. They just have to travel in pairs, that's all. And you can't leave the country that you're in.
Got it.
And you
So
can't or go skydiving and a bunch of shit like that.
What are they like junior aged?
Yeah, they're mostly college juniors.
College juniors. Okay, got it. And the ones that are in San Francisco are from other American schools or other schools from around the world, or both?
They have to be from American universities, but not all of them are American. So we have a kid from the UK who goes to Cornell, I think. They're from all different U.S. universities across the country.
Got it.
Yeah, it's a cool program. You should take a look. They offer some. Really
Absolutely, I'm excited to look this up for sure.
Yeah.
And I also want to look up this Emily Baylord.
Yeah.
Sounds fun. Yeah.
Yeah, she's cool.
You
She's
met.
really helpful.
Sorry?
Yeah.
I said she's really helpful. A couple of my friends have worked with her.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I think she's really, I mean, it's really neat that she's like very generous to meet with us. So we also think she's very helpful.
That's awesome.
Yeah, she's lovely. Yeah.
Well, cool. Well,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, thank you so much again for being so generous with your time. I know it's getting a little late.
Oh, no, it's fine. And let me know if I can be of any additional help. And let me know if you guys ever want to take a tour. I'd be happy to take you.
Absolutely. That would be fantastic. We would love that. Some
Cool.
like on the ground sensory ethnography with you.
Yeah, I could actually do it.
Yeah. And when you're here next week, you have Knott's email and we're all in contact. So
Yeah.
I don't know
shoot us-
if you're completely booked, that's fine. But if you want to grab a coffee or something, we can touch base. We're all always here. So
Yeah, we're having lunch, I think, at Stanford. We're doing like a bag lunch. So if you wanted to come join us, I'm sure the students would be interested in talking with you. You know, you're working on design stuff and marketing. There's I think they'd be interested in chatting.
Cool. Sounds awesome. Yeah, email Knott the details and we'll all coordinate.
Okay, cool. And can you just remind me if you can send me just a little background on like what you guys are studying and what you guys are doing?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That would be great. And I'm sure the students would love to meet with you guys. Obviously, if it's no inconvenience to you, you certainly don't have to feel obligated. So,
Cool.
yeah. Cool.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much. It was so great to meet you.
Yeah, likewise. I hope this was helpful to your project.
Absolutely. This has been amazing. You are our expert after all.
All right, well, keep in touch if you need anything from me, and maybe I'll see you next week at Stanford.
Awesome.
All right.
Sounds good, Jack. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good night. Yeah, no problem. Bye-bye.